Okay, hi everyone. I'm Soham. As Dr. Nepal said, I'm a PhD student at the Industrial and Systems Engineering Department here at A&M. And today I'm going to give you guys an introduction to Tableau. Uh, so this is going to be a hands-on session. During this session, at a certain point of time, I'll basically help you guys download this software, Tableau. And then we'll work on a data set together, essentially generate some dashboards and some worksheets which help us understand the data, interact with the data, and also make some inferences about the data. I plan this to be an interactive session. If during my presentation anyone has any doubts, please feel free to unmute yourselves and ask any questions that you might have. Even when we're working with the software, it's the same drill. So yeah, I'll start with my presentation. Okay, so this is how this presentation is going to work. We're going to first start with an introduction to what business intelligence and Tableau is. And then as I said, we're going to download and install Tableau. And then in order to motivate why we should learn Tableau, I'll show you guys some example Tableau dashboards, which will hopefully motivate you all to understand how powerful a tool Tableau is. And then the majority of this session is essentially going to be an interactive session where we're going to work on a particular Tableau dashboard together. And then we can have a Q&A, but irrespective of this particular format, as I said, feel free to ask any questions, interrupt me, unmute yourself and ask any questions if you have any doubts. Okay, so we begin by having a brief idea about what business intelligence is, and this is actually a term which is, getting very popular nowadays in a lot of settings. Uh, People show this term around a lot, and essentially what it means is we can sum it up by saying it's data-driven decision making. Uh, basically, if we can think about this entire business intelligence process, it can be subdivided into 5 steps, broadly speaking. The first step is data collection, in which businesses particularly have like a huge pool of data, essentially called a data lake or a data warehouse, if we're talking about big data. And this data can be collected from various sources. Once this data is collected, we move to the next step, which is usually the most important step in any data analysis cycle, which is data cleaning. Because without this step, we can't really go ahead with the next step, which is data analysis. Uh, so once we have that clean data, we basically use different tools. You can use Python, you can use R, or even another host of tools to perform analysis on this data, statistical analysis on this data. And then finally, once you analyze the data and get the results that you're interested in, you can use different data visualizations, dashboards, reports, and other software to represent that data. Once that data visualization is done, you can understand some trends or patterns in that data and go ahead with your inference or decision making. So the most important parts of this entire setting, of course, not undermining any of these steps, is actually data analysis and data visualization. Another setting in which data visualization is really powerful is when you're presenting the analysis of your particular project to somebody who is not really well acquainted with the various nuances of data analysis. At that point of time, visualization can give them a very clean view or a zoomed out view of what you have done, and that can help them in their data driven decision making. And as I said, so this analysis and visualization, these two particular steps, you can use Tableau. Essentially, you can also use Tableau for data cleaning and data prepping. There are other Tableau softwares which have come out recently, but for the purpose of this particular presentation, we're going to focus on the data analysis and data visualization. Okay, so as I said, so what is Tableau? It's basically a business intelligence and analytics software. And there are a host of other products which Tableau right now has apart from these three, but these are relatively the more traditional products. They are Tableau Desktop, and the free version of this Tableau Desktop is Tableau Public. In fact, we're going to work using Tableau Public today. But as students of the A&M system, and I think also some other universities also provide a 1-year academic license of Tableau Desktop, which has a few extra features. But for the purpose of today's seminar, Tableau Public will be more than enough. And we also have Tableau Online and Tableau Server, which also I'm going to talk about briefly. And the main advantages of Tableau as a business intelligence software is that firstly, it can be connected to multiple data sources and data types. So especially, now with big data, people are using various data sources together and also using different data types together. So Tableau can interact with all of them very well. And you can, as we will see in this presentation, build a lot of interactive dashboards using a very few clicks, and we can get a very beautiful dashboard to present our results. And another useful tool of Tableau is that you can actually, when we'll be talking about Tableau Public, we will see that when we store the Tableau workbook, as it is called, in the Tableau online community, you can basically generate an HTML code to embed your Tableau dashboard in any website that you might be putting out. In fact, a lot of US government data related websites also use Tableau dashboards to visualize, represent their data. Okay, so right now I plan to help you guys install Tableau. So there are a few system requirements. I hope everyone will be able to meet these minimum system requirements. And the first step here is just Google Tableau public download. And you should see this link over here, the first one, public.tableau.com. Download now. And you have to click on that link. And yeah, once you click on that link, you will find a website wherein you have to enter your email address. You can use your Tamu email ID as well, no problem with that. And once you enter your email address, you have to basically download the app. It's a pretty big application. It's 430 megabytes. So once you save that, you have to, it's a normal process. Once it's downloaded, you have to double click on the exe file and then go ahead with the installation. So at this point, I hope everyone can continue with this process. And if you all can give me a heads up as to if you're done with this, then I think we can go ahead with the next steps. So let me know if you're having any trouble going to the website. I can also do that with you all in case you have any issues. So basically, Tableau public download. Yeah, so we click on this link. And if you enter your email address here, you can download the app. So, right, so just let me know if you all are done with this download. You can unmute yourself or send a message in the chat, and then we can go ahead with the next steps. Is it working? Are there any issues? Anyone started downloading?
So mine is have started downloading, but it's like 400 MB, so it's taking some time.
Okay.
Yeah,
No problem.
it's working fine for
Is
me.
it?
Yeah, thank you.
How much time is it showing for you?
Based on my Wi-Fi speed, it shows another 15 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
In that case, we might get started with the rest of the presentation, and as and when you'll download the software. We can begin, you know, you can join in and basically, I'll try to make it very easy and understandable for everyone, but obviously it'll be much easier if you can download the software and do it with me. What about the others? Is there anyone else who has any progress?
Mine is finished.
Oh, okay, good. uh, and once you all have already once you all have installed the software, if you could give me a heads up if at least any one or couple of you has installed the software, we can get started with the demonstration. uh, so yeah, in the meantime, let me show you all some demo visualizations so that you get a motivation of what essentially how powerful a tool Tableau is. So in that very public Tableau, public.tableau.com, there's this option called gallery. And in this gallery, you can see a host of visualizations, which a lot of, students and data scientists from across the world have worked on these visualizations and they have published it. And Tableau selects some of the better ones to, and publishes them in their gallery. So if you go to featured, there's this particular filter which you can select to get a host of dashboards related to any particular thing that you're looking for. So industry, if you're into film and television, time series analysis, business dashboards, you can see a lot of them. They also have this visualization of the day where every day they highlight one of the better visualizations. But I have a couple of visualizations in mind which I want to show you guys. So the first one is I chose this one because it's somewhat related to the sort of research that you're conducting. Essentially, this is related to energy capacity and generation in emerging markets. So we see a stacked bar chart here, essentially, where across the years we see the distribution of the different sorts of energy sources that are generated, as well as the energy capacities. And the cool thing here is that you can filter this entire data depending on which specific country that you're interested in. So for example, if we, let's say we select South Africa, apply. So it'll filter the entire data with respect to South Africa, and you can see that essentially it's dominated by coal capacity as well as generation. You can also choose particular sectors and filter this dashboard so that you can only see relevant data and filter out the irrelevant data. So this is just one ability that Tableau as a business intelligence tool gives you. Uh, Another example is something which is of a more contemporary nature. So Tableau has this wonderful, representation of US vaccination rates. So you can see here that we see a lot of charts. Talk about Tableau dashboards. I'm going to show you how to build a lot of charts which interact with each other. So even here, you can select, a particular state for which you want to see the vaccination status. So if you click on, let's say, North Dakota, you get a map. This map also, if you notice, just changed with respect to the state that we just selected. And it's a color coded map, which gives you information about the vaccination percentage in different counties in North Dakota. And this gives you the top few counties and the bottom few time varying view of how the vaccination performance is going. And you can also, filter out various age groups. So if you're just interested in 18 plus, the moment you click on this filter, the data is automatically filtered across all of my charts. And this is another very powerful feature that Tableau provides you as a data visualization expert. And then this is the third one I chose. It's a relatively more educative uh, uh, dashboard where it basically lists all the possible dashboards that you can, all the possible charts and graphs that you can make in Tableau with respect to what you really want to show. So for example, if you are interested in showing correlation between variables, it shows you what sort of visualizations can help you with that. For example, we see scatter plots, connected scatter plots, a heat map, a bubble map. So if you are interested in time series analysis, it shows you, a line by diagram, a line column diagram, and also connected scatter plot. So yeah, you can visit these particular links later to help develop your visual vocabulary, as this dashboard says. And finally, I just want to give you a glimpse of another project which I had worked on with Dr. Banerjee related to hospital collaboration. So we were interested in, developing a network-based optimization model which facilitates essentially service collaboration between hospitals. So some hospitals who do not provide a certain service would transfer some of their patients to larger hospitals who provide that service, and it would be a two-way collaboration network. And we actually use Tableau to create a dashboard, and it's an interactive dashboard, and we created this tool and presented it to a chair of health policy decision makers for them to play around with the settings and figure out which is the most optimal service setup for hospitals. This is an example dashboard. You can see a lot of charts here, and we can also see sort of a map here. I'll show you all how to work with these maps as well. And this shows that, this is the pre-optimization setting where the services do not have a very good degree of sustainability. But with the optimized results, we see that most of the services have a good degree of sustainability, and we can it's actually interactive, so we can choose a particular set of hospitals for which to filter the data, and automatically all the filter data is filtered and the charts are filtered. So just a high level description of what sort of projects that you can do in Tableau. It's very powerful and it's being used widely in various sectors. Right, so now I was planning for the interactive session now that we already have a background. So if you all could give me an update as to if the software is downloaded, we can go ahead and start with the session. Anyone having any issues with the software? Is it installed? Nihal, did you down?
Any student from the US, they may have been able to download. I know Alex has done so. Lian, Sanchir, were you able to download?
Mine is halfway done.
Okay, good.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, my Zoom just crashed.
Okay, so I think Sanchir is also about to be finished. There are a couple of Saibul, and there are a couple of, I think I saw, let's see, there. So yeah, Sanchir is done.
Okay, then what about Nihal? Nihal was saying he was having some time downloading.
I've downloaded, sir. Currently installing in my laptop. It's taking some time because my laptop lags very fast. Yeah.
Okay, no problem, no problem. So in that case, let's start with the very basics, and you guys can catch up because I'll be going pretty slow, so I don't think anyone will have any issues. Okay, so let me share the screen. I hope I'm sharing the correct screen. Okay. So once you have the software downloaded, just double click on the shortcut for Tableau Public and it will open up. Can you see the software open up on my screen? Am I sharing the correct screen?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so once the software opens up, you will find this particular window, which is where you connect to a particular data set. So for the purpose of today's presentation, I'm going to work with a very standard Tableau dataset. It's called Sample Superstore. So if you just search Sample Superstore in Google, the very first link that you will find is for community.tableau.com. And if you click on that particular link, you will be able to download the Excel file for Tableau Sample Superstore. Uh, Yeah, so it's this particular file that I'm talking about, sample superstore sales Excel. And I am also sharing this link in the Zoom chat in case anyone has any issue with accessing that. So you can also use this link. I have kept this file in this Google Drive folder as well. So you can use this to download the XLS file, which I'm going to use. It's a very small file, so I don't think you will have any issues. Can someone just access this drive link and confirm whether it's opening for everyone? Because I did give access to everyone.
Yeah, I can open it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Nepal.
yeah.
Okay. In that case, once you download that particular sample superstore.xls file, when you go to connect, you have to click on what type of file you're about to import to Tableau. So since we're working with Excel, right now we're going to have to click on Microsoft Excel. Browse. Okay, so now that we have the file open, you will see to the left that it shows you the active list of connections. And by connections, it means basically the data sets that are connected to your Tableau. And below that, it shows you what sheets are there in that particular workbook. So there are 3 sheets: orders, peoples, and returns. So if you want to work with any one of the sheets, for example, orders, just click on orders and drag it to this place over here, which says drag tables here. And once you do that, you will find the entire data sheet has been loaded here. And this gives you the first few rows of that data sheet so that you have an idea about what your sheet is all about. Uh, and these are the columns of the data sheet. In fact, if you click on this particular manage metadata option over here, it will give you a list of all the columns so that you have a zoomed out idea about what your data sheet looks like. And this gives you the data as a whole. So a few things which are important to note here is that whenever you load a data sheet in Tableau, what it does is it reads the first few rows of that data sheet and automatically assigns a particular data type to it. And this it does, using its own, learning and its own inbuilt options. So it doesn't always get it right. So from a data cleaning point of view, it always makes sense for you to go over if they have correctly assigned everything. But we will work on that through this workshop, and we'll not work on it right now. But just to give a glimpse, if you see at these options called customer ID, customer name, segment, it has an ABC over here, and this ABC is basically a string data type. If you want to change it, you can click on this ABC and you get a whole list of options to change your data type. Similarly, this hash symbol over here is a numbers data type. So you can change it to any other option if you so require to. And Tableau also has separate data types for dates. So it automatically realizes that these are dates and saves it to the date data type. And it can also detect geographical locations. So if you see country, city, state, postal code, it realizes that these are geographical locations, and it saves a particular geographical role to it. So if you go to geographical role, you'll see that it's set with country and region. So we don't have to mess with the settings too much right now, but just know for a fact that Tableau does this, in its backend. Right. So yeah, once we have this data with you, and in a more realistic setting, once you have already cleaned it up and looked at every data type and seen that it's correctly assigned, you click on this sheet 1 option over here. And it basically takes you to a default blank Tableau worksheet. And in this worksheet, you can create your charts and visualizations. But there are a few settings which we need to know about before we, just start working on these charts. And the first thing that we're going to talk about is this data tab over here to your left. Basically, whenever Tableau imports a data sheet, it divides its columns into two sets essentially. The first one is called dimensions. And if you see this thin line over discount, that is the demarcation between the top set and the bottom set. The top set is called dimensions and the bottom set is called measures. In older Tableau versions, it was more explicitly mentioned, but nowadays they have decided to remove the mentioning of dimensions and measures. The difference between dimensions and measures is that dimensions refer to more qualitative data. So as you can see here, city, country, customer ID, these are all qualitative or categorical data columns. So these come under dimensions. And in measures, we find numeric data, or to be more specific, quantitative data like discount, profit, quantity, sales, etc. So what Tableau often does is whenever it finds numbers, it sends it to a measure, and whenever it finds text, it sends it to dimensions. Now, if you have worked with data sets before, you know that that is not really a good way to demarcate dimensions and measures. So for example, if you look at this particular data set, there's something called row ID. And although row ID is a numeric field, it is not quantitative data, it is categorical data, because you can't take the average of 5 row IDs or take the sum of 5 row IDs. It doesn't really make any sense. So, however, you can take the average discount or the average profit or the total sales or the total quantity. So that's why these are quantitative data. And now in the newer versions of Tableau has become smarter. So whenever it sees anything called ID, it automatically sets it to as a dimension, which is a categorical variable. Okay, so now that we have an idea of dimensions and measures, we can create our first table. Just give me a second over here. Right. So we can create our first table. And what in seeing the total sales and quantity across region. Give me a second. Yeah. So all we need to do is double click on region, and region, you will automatically see a table pop up here, which shows the 4 different regions that are there on this data sheet. And then if you click on sales and drag it to this table over here, it will give you, the sales divided across the regions. So Central has a total of 500,000 sales, East has almost 700,000, and so on. Similarly, if you want to see something else apart from sales, you can also click on quantity and drag it to this table. And here you see that Tableau basically gives you a table where it sums up the quantity and sales across the region. Now, a few things to note over here. By the way, is this working for everyone? Is everyone at par? I don't want to move too fast. So is this making sense? If anyone can give any feedback.
Yes, I can follow.
Okay, perfect. Right. One important thing to note over here is that when we dragged in sales and quantity, if you see this particular card which just popped up called measure values, it shows sum and then quantity in parentheses. So what this means is whenever we put any measure in the Tableau worksheet, Tableau automatically aggregates this measure using some default formula. So right now, what it's essentially doing is that it's going to this data sheet. And on every row of the data sheet, it's checking what the region is. So is it south, is it west, is it central, or is it east? I think that's the other one. And then since we have subdivided this table according to region and the default aggregation is sum, it is summing across every row of quantity for central, and that entire total sum is being shown over here. And that's what it's doing for sales as well. So the net sum across all the rows which has the region central is being shown over here. Of course, sum is not the only aggregation that you might be interested in. So to change that, you can click on this arrow over here. And if you go to measures, you can see that there are a lot of aggregations that you might be interested in. So for example, if you click on average, it will give you the average number of quantities that are sold for every row. So it's now going to average, it's going to take the sum of all the rows for central and average it across the number of rows and gives you the average quantity. Similarly, if you are interested in median profit, it can do the same across central, east, south, and west. You can have different aggregations across different columns as well. Right. So this was just a simple overview about how to create a table in Tableau. But now we'll be looking into some more interesting visualizations. So we'll start with a bar chart. And don't just keep this table here and just click on this option on the bottom left called new sheet. So if you click on that, a new sheet will open up. And in this way in Tableau, essentially you can create a set of sheets, which you can later put together into that dashboard, which I showed you a while back. We'll do that as well, hopefully today. Okay, so now let's work on a bar chart. And the way we're gonna do that is we're gonna first double click on region again, and region is going to pop up on the rows. And now instead of dragging sales to this table over here, if we just double click on sales, you see that the old table is back here. And now if you click on sales and drag it to columns, you see that automatically a bar chart is created representing the same numbers that we saw in that table over there. So just to make this look a little better, I think it would make more sense to see all of these in the columns and basically change it to a vertical setup. So the way you do it in Tableau is there's this particular option over here called swap rows and columns. So if you click on that, it changes it to a more better, visually more appealing setup. Right. So basically how Tableau works is you have a research question in mind or a hypothesis in mind, and you want to check whether that is the case or not when you're working on these visualizations. So, or you might just have a research question in mind. So for example, I see that West is the highest of all the 4 regions with respect to sales. But let's say I'm interested in knowing which state among all the Western states has the highest sales. So, we can of course do that by going through the entire data set and calculating, some measures. But a more simple way to do it is using a certain thing called color coding in Tableau. So right now I'm going to show you what this particular card over here called the marks card does. And this marks card has a set of options. So it has color, size, label, detail, and tooltip. The first thing we're going to talk about is color. What color does is if you choose any particular field from here and drop it on color, Tableau will automatically intelligently try to demarcate this particular graph that you have right now on the basis of the different categories that you have in that particular field. So just to give you an example, if I click on state and drag it to color, just click on add all members. It does this because there are a lot of categories. So Tableau warns you that this might get messy. So if you see here, it color codes the entire map with respect to, the different states. So just to make this look a little better, I'm just going to click on sum sales and drag it outside this card. And then the numbers are going to vanish. They were showing the numbers for every state over there. So that's why it was looking messy. But as you can see here, it has color coded the entire bar for West with respect to the various states, and the legend is here on the side. So automatically you can see that this color, which is California, is the highest sales state among the Western states. Similarly, for South, we can see that I think it's Florida, and for East, it's New York, as no surprises there. And for Central, it's Texas. So as a feedback, can any of you, are you able to generate this particular chart? Does it make sense?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Another thing, another way we could have seen this demarcation without doing it using color. Again, if I drag this out, the color will automatically go away. And then if I click on state and take it to size, it will actually divide this, with respect, the thickness of the bar will be done with respect to the sales. So just for easier understanding, you can also take the same field and also put it on color. And now you see that it forms this skyscraper-like shape where it gives you, again, the length, sorry, did I say thickness? I mean, the length of the bar gives you an idea of the number and also the number of sales and also the color. So again, this is another way you can do that demarcation over here. Other things that you can add to this particular chart is using this label option over here. So for example, if I right now remove the states so that it looks better, and if I want to see the exact number of sales on this chart itself, I can go to sales and put it on label. And then we can see the total sales on top of these bar charts. You don't have to do it specifically for sales. You can also do it for other numbers as well. So if I go to quantity and put it on label, I can see the quantity on the same chart as well as the sales. Okay, and the final thing we have here is called detail. So what detail and tooltip are two things that actually work together. The tooltip is basically whatever you see when you hover your mouse over any particular bar. So let's say right now it's just showing region and sales. But let's say if I want to, show more data over here, I can do that using a combination of detail and tooltip. So the first thing that you need to do is, let's say I want to show the quantity for West for each of the regions here as well, apart from sales. I'll click on quantity and first I'll drag it to detail. Then I will click on tooltip, and this basically gives you an editor in which you can edit what you want to see whenever you hover your mouse on the bar. So for example, if I just want to add some text, I can simply write here, this summarizes data for each region. And if I click on OK, it will add that text on each of the tooltips. Of course, this was a more static adding because I just added one same text on each of the tooltips. But you can do this more dynamically. So there's this thing here called insert. And if you click on insert, you will see the list of fields over here, which you have added in this detail section or are a part of the chart as a whole. So you see, since this chart has region, sales, and you have added quantity over here, these three fields are shown in this insert region, under this insert dialog box. So, so let's say I want to dynamically update this text for every region. So what I can do is, this summarizes data for region, and then I can go to insert and click on region, and then go to OK. So what will happen is that you see that this particular text is now dynamically going to change for each of the regions. So yeah, you can add any other quantities that you want, but you have to keep in mind that you have to first add that particular field to detail, or it has to be a part of the chart in any way, and only after that can you add it to this tooltip. So any questions here? Is it making sense?
Yes.
And Okay, okay, thank you so much. Okay, so the third type of data that we type of chart that we might be interested in is our time series chart. So we go to a new worksheet, and let's say we are interested to see the profit of this organization with respect to time. If you remember when I showed that visual vocabulary sheet a while back, it says that, if you want to see time series data, the best way to do that is using a line chart. And Tableau knows this automatically. You don't have to really, tell Tableau what you want. Uh, so if you double click on profit, it by default, since it thinks that you are only interested in the profit, it shows a bar chart. But then if you go to a particular date, so let's say I go to order date and I drag it to the columns, Tableau automatically realizes that you're interested in a line chart right now. So it gives you a line chart wherein it plots the profit with respect to time. So for 2014, you see that it's 49,000, 2015, 61,000, and so on. Now, a cool feature which Tableau has is that since it knows that order date is a data type, it automatically understands that this date has years, months, weeks, and days within it. So right now it's aggregating in a certain sense this with respect to year. But if you see this little plus sign over here, if you click on that plus sign, it now breaks up this entire data into quarters. So for every year, for every quarter, it filters the data, it filters the rows, and gives the sum of profit for that particular quarter in that year in a different line chart. Again, if you click on that plus symbol over here, it does it with respect to month. So within each quarter, it also distributes everything with respect to the month. And then another final level is using days. So within each month and each quarter, it separates everything according to days. So this is no longer an aggregation. It's basically reporting what the profits were for that particular day. And if you want, you can remove anything. So if you're not interested in quarters, you can just remove quarters and it will just aggregate it with respect to year, month, and day. Or if you're just interested in year and day, you can do that as well. So in this way, you can change up a lot of things over here. So right now I'm going to keep year and year and quarter for demonstrating something else which I want to show. And that is this filters card over here. So we talked about the marks card. We have an idea of how the marks card works. But there's another setting called the filters card. And what you can do in that filters card is you can filter the data with respect to any field. So let's say right now I'm seeing the net profit across all regions for each year and each quarter, right? But let's say if I click on region and if I put that on the filters card, it will first give you a dialog box saying what filters you want to apply. So firstly, I'm going to click on all and then click on OK. So nothing changed because this is what it was doing by default, right? It was not filtering anything. But what you can do after that is if you click on this arrow and go to show filter, this filter will pop up to the left. And here you see a list of checkboxes, which if you check or uncheck, it will dynamically update the data and the chart as well. So if I uncheck central, you see the charts change. It automatically removes all the data from central and updates it with respect to time. Data, let's say potentially higher for quarter 4 as compared to quarter 1 for East. But if I go to Central, I see that the profits have actually gone down for quarter 4 with respect to quarter 1. So, this is a cool way to investigate the data and to test your hypotheses and know the data better without actually going through all the rows and figuring out what it means. So that's why I said that Tableau is not just a visualization tool, it is also an analysis tool in a certain sense. Okay, so was this part clear with respect to the time series? Any issues, any feedback, any comments? I'm trying to go slow so that you guys, is the speed too slow? Should I, can I go faster?
I think it's a good speed.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so another cool feature of Tableau is a particular thing called maps. So we talked about time series and dates. Now we're going to talk about geographical data, if you remember, I mentioned that Tableau automatically realizes that some of the data you have here is geographical. So let's say let's say we are interested to see the sales of the different states, and we want to plot that on the map of the US. That's another cool thing that Tableau can do. And it's very simple. All you have to do first is double click on any geographical data field. So we see that there is this field called state. If I just double click on that, it will automatically realize that this is geographical data. And Tableau, within Tableau servers, it already has mapped all of these names to geographical regions. So that's why we find a point for each of the states over here. So this is, as you can see, a simple double click can generate all of this. You don't have to do anything manually. However, you see that right now it's just a dot over a particular state, but this is not really representative of the entire state. So this is where, even if Tableau is very smart, sometimes you have to manually input some data or input some options. And the way you do that is, if you go to this basically shows you the chart type in a certain sense. So if you click on automatic, and if you go to map, now Tableau fills up the entire state with that particular, with whatever data that you're interested to show on for that particular state. So right now we see that the entire map is filled, but we're not really showing anything. So this is not really a very exciting thing to see. However, what we can do is, let's say we are interested to see how the profits have changed across the states. So again, if we just go to profit and drag it on color, we can see that it basically plots the profits of the various states on the states. And this is the legend which you can use to understand, which states have had a higher profit and which have had a lower profit. Now you can see that this color coding is really weird. I mean, it's transcending from orange to blue, which does not make visual sense. So what you can do is you can double click on this and change the colors. So there's this option called palette. If you click on palette, you can go to there are a lot of palettes available. So let's say, let me click on temperature diverging, because this makes more sense. You see that the negative profits are shown in green and the positive profits are shown in red, which again to me does not make visual sense. I would want the reverse actually. So I will click on reversed and it will automatically reverse the color scheme. So now the negative profit is in red and the positive profit is in green. And then if I click on apply, you see it automatically changes the color scheme. And without knowing anything about the data, just looking at this map, you can understand that New York and California are the most profitable states. So this is the power of Tableau. With a few clicks, we could completely visualize a lot of data on this map. Okay. So this was just a basic view of maps. And again, all of the settings which I mentioned in the previous worksheets are also applicable here. So you see the tooltip which you are getting for every map. You can modify the tooltip to show other information as well. So again, if you want to, right now we're showing just profit. If you also want to see sales, just drag sales to the detail tab. And by default, Tableau sometimes automatically adds the sales. But if you want to customize that, you can do that you can do that using tooltips. So again, you can say that this data represents some numbers for the state of, and then you can go to insert state, full stop. And then you can also remove this one, maybe because it's showing redundant data. And then if you click on OK, you can see that it's going to dynamically change. This data represents some numbers for Texas, for Oklahoma, Kansas, and so on. So does this map part make sense? Can I go on with the last part of it? Any feedback, comments?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and another quick thing from a data analysis point of view, which you can do in Tableau, is identify outliers. So let's say that I'm interested in plotting uh, a chart which demarcates, which basically shows the trend of sales and discount. So how much discount is given to products which have different amount of sales or sale price. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to I'm going to either double click on sales, or I can just, so even if I double click, it's added to rows, or even if I want to manually do that, I can take sales and add it to the rows. So you can do it in any way. And then if I take another number or another measure, if you remember, and like discount, and also drag it to columns, it just gives you 1 point over here. So this is another thing which Tableau sometimes does in default. It basically right now has aggregated the entire sales and entire discount of the entire data sheet, and is just representing that using one number on this chart. But that is not really what we want. We want the sales versus discount for all of the rows. So to fix that, we have to go to analysis, and we have to untick this option called aggregate measures, which is something that Tableau does by default. It feels that you want to aggregate everything. So that's why sometimes you have to manually uncheck that. And when you uncheck that, you see that now Tableau gives you a sort of a scatter plot of various discounts and various sales. And as you can see, the trend is that as the amount of sales are getting lesser, the discount is also reducing. So you can see this clear trend over here. However, you can see that there's this particular data point up over here, which does not seem to be fitting with the rest of this data. So this automatically gives you an idea that this is perhaps an outlier, because as you see for the other points, this trend is more or less similar. So it's either an outlier, or it's basically a row that needs some investigation. So you could quickly figure out that this point is an outlier. But let's say you later want to go back to your data sheet and delete this row. Right now, from just this information, it will be difficult for you to figure out which row this outlier belongs to, because it is just showing you discount and sales. So essentially, you would have to go to Excel and filter both of them and figure out which row this belongs to. Or what you can do is, if you know that among your fields there is a particular unique row identifier. So for example, in this particular data sheet, I know that product ID is a unique row identifier, or let's say order ID. And I'm not really sure what it is for this particular data set, but when you're working with your own research data set, you will know what the primary key or the unique row identifier for that data set is. So let's say it's order ID. Just go to order ID and put it on detail. And then if you go to the tooltip, it will show what order ID this data point belongs to. So you see that the order ID is CA 2014 and so on. So now that you know the specific order ID, you can just go to your data sheet and click on this order ID and delete that row. So this is a simple way about how you can, figure out how to identify outliers in your data. So everything looking good? Could you generate this chart? Is this making sense?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. And now finally, I'm going to also show you a particular feature in Tableau called dashboards, which is, what I showed in those visualizations. And for the purpose of that dashboard, I'm first going to create a very basic bar chart, and then show you how you can, simply create a dashboard and interact with the various charts of the dashboard. So just click on a new sheet, and we're going to make another simple bar chart where we're going to see the sales with respect to the categories. So I think by now you all should be, have an idea about how to create this bar chart. So you can give it a shot. Basically what I want is, on each column, I want each unique category. And on on the columns, I want a bar which sums the sales across that category. So it will be looking similar to this chart over here, except that instead of a region in the columns, I want to do it with respect to the categories. So You can give that a shot. I don't think it will be too difficult for you. Uh, very, very simple. Basically, all we need to do is just click on category, put it on the rows, and then just click on, let's say, sales, put it on the columns. We have this chart, but if you remember, this is not looking very nice, at least to my eyes. So I'm going to swap rows and columns, and we have this chart over here. Okay, so now that we have this chart, before creating another worksheet, if you hover over these options over here, we were creating worksheets continuously. We have another option called new dashboard. So now if you click on this new dashboard, you will see that it doesn't really say drop fields here, which was previously the case with a new sheet. It says drop sheets here. So you can drop multiple data sheets on top of this dashboard. So ideally what you do is you rename your data sheets. Just right click on the sheet and go to rename. So I'm going to rename this as category. And then let's say I'm interested in the time series one. I'm going to rename this as, let's say, time. And now over here on the left, you can see the list of worksheets that you have. And just click on category and drag that over here. And then click on time and drag that anywhere, maybe on top. And now you can see both of these charts together on the same dashboard. So could any of you generate this dashboard? Is it making sense? Just need to drag the two worksheets on top of each other.
Yep, got that.
Okay, perfect. And now let's see how you can make these worksheets interact with each other. So right now we have this filter over here, which automatically got imported from this time worksheet. Now, if I change the filters, you see that it's only changing the time worksheet and having no impact on this furniture worksheet, because this was already embedded with this time worksheet. But the cool thing about Tableau is that you can just go here and click on apply to worksheets. This is where you select which worksheets this filter applies on. And if you go to apply to worksheets and click on all using this data source, or you can also choose particular worksheets, but for the purpose of this presentation, let me click on all using this data source. If I click on this, and now if I want to filter anything, it will simultaneously filter both of these charts. So these are ways in which, using a few clicks, you can show your, client or, your advisor, if you want to show them something related to your data, you can show them very quickly using a few clicks of a button. Another, you can also use one particular worksheet to filter another worksheet. So if you click on this time worksheet over here, you see that there's an option called use as filter. So if you click on use as filter over here, and then if I click on one data point, which is Q4 year 2017, if I just click on that data point, the other chart is also filtered with respect to that data point. So now I just see the category wise sales for Q4 2017. If I now click on Q3 2016, the same filtration is applied. Or if I want to do it the other way around, I can also choose to use this as a filter. And now if I just click on technology, it will filter the sales for only technology. Or just office supplies, it will filter the sales for only office supplies. So you can see that from Q3 to Q4, there was suddenly a large number of sales for office supplies. So one just last thing which I forgot to mention is that in this version of Tableau, which is Tableau Public, when you go to file, okay, just let me just take just one more minute to conclude this.
Sure.
Because, right. So if you go to file, you don't have really an option to save this workbook locally because this is Tableau Public. So what you need to do is when you go to save to Tableau Public as, you have to, this is the workbook name that you have to give. So let's say I give the name demo. And then if I click on save, uh, I actually have already logged into Tableau Public, but what the prompt that you will get is that you have to create a Tableau Public account. So basically you have to give your email ID and a password, and then it'll save this workbook to Tableau Public. And how you access that is, how you access that is, you go to Tableau Public, and then you have your personal profile there. Uh, so you see, this is my profile in Tableau Public. I just went to public.tableau.com and I logged into my profile. And there, if I go to Vizzes, which is a short for visualization, you can see this demo visualization, which I just created. That will be, automatically sent to the server over here. And then there's this option to download the workbook. So you can download it to see on Tableau desktop. Or what you can do is, if you just go to Tableau Academic License, if you just search Tableau Desktop Academic License, at least for the students in the A&M system, I think it's also there for uh, other universities as well. You can download the full version, which is Tableau Desktop. And then if you go to academic/students, when you enter you go to free student license. When you enter your details, Tableau will send you a product ID to your email ID, which you can activate and use a 1-year license for Tableau Desktop, which is the full version. So I didn't want to talk about that because I wanted to show you the demonstration here. But if any of you want to know this in more detail, or if you are having trouble, feel free to get in touch with me and I'll help you install the full version so that you don't have to go through the hassle of going and saving it to public every time and then downloading it. So yeah,
So,
that was just what I wanted to add.
right, that's a great suggestion. I'm guessing that once you could export those dashboard directly into PowerPoint or PDF, or could you do that or
Uh,
no?
you can export them to PDF, but I don't think the interactive aspect of the dashboard will be lost.
Okay.
So, but the one cool thing, if any of you are into has developed websites before, is that you can using the Tableau Public, you can embed this into an HTML, and then you can have it in a website where the interactive part will also be there. If you click or highlight on anything, you can interact.
But the static version, right? Not the dynamic, let's say the static version, if they
Yeah,
want to
this
incorporate that in their PowerPoint, for example, they want to show this particular visualization, just to explain what they have done, right? And so,
Mhm.
so could they export to PowerPoint, or they have to copy paste into PowerPoint? How
if
does that work?
if they download the entire version of the desktop version of Tableau, which I just talked about, the academic version, which
Mm-hmm.
is again very similar, just as I said, just they need to have that license, which they will be sent in their email ID. They can go to File, and here you will see a lot of options. So export as PowerPoint,
Okay.
export as version, print to PDF, so they can save it in any form that they like.
Okay. And also, just in case you cannot, download academic version for whatever reason, so what you can do is you can still use the public, and then maybe download that, email that to Ajinka.
Yeah,
He can
exactly.
export that to PowerPoint and send you the PowerPoint slide. Okay, we could make that happen that way, because you don't have a whole lot of time. So,
Correct.
but again, those are a few options if you want to use it. I think I know we went a little bit over time. Thank you so much, Soham. Really appreciated your time and help.
Thank you so much. This was a wonderful opportunity. I hope everyone could take something out of this session. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you so much, Sohom.
All right. With that, we'll